Shalom and good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcasting to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, Israel has instructed its national electric company to cut back its already limited electricity shipments to the Gaza Strip by 20% as the situation of Hamas in the Palestinian enclave continues to deteriorate. The Islamic Republic of Iran fires 6 ballistic missiles toward eastern Syria, aimed at targeting facilities of the Islamic State, as well as sending a threatening message to its enemies, including the United States, Saudi Arabia, and Israel. The United States is working to restore a deconflicting mechanism of communications with Russia meant to avoid an accidental clash over Syria after Moscow decided to cut the communications line off in response to a U.S. downing of a Syrian military jet. Israel has instructed its national electric company to cut back its already limited electricity shipments to the Gaza Strip last night by 20%, a step that political analysts told TV7 aims to worsen the power crisis of the enclave, which will apply significant pressure on the Islamist Hamas organization to agree either to the Western-backed Palestinian Authority in the West Bank to relinquish control of the Gaza Strip to President Mahmoud Abbas, or to the Egyptian government to accept their security-related demands in return for humanitarian aid and easing of restrictions. In response to the move by Israel's electric company, Hamas warned the crisis in Gaza may cause for an escalation. An Islamist source told TV7 that Hamas could not withstand an additional deterioration of the situation in the enclave, as its rivals are waiting to seize an opportunity that would allow them to topple the regime of Hamas, including radical groups affiliated with the Islamic State. The source, who talked on condition of anonymity, depicted the situation in Gaza as a time bomb ready to explode unless Hamas takes immediate action. He further explained that Hamas has to act on the practical choices available to it quickly, because if it doesn't, it will lose control of the Gaza Strip. Now to another matter, the Islamic Republic of Iran fired 6 ballistic missiles toward eastern Syria, aiming to target facilities of the Islamic State, which Tehran holds responsible for attacks on its capital last week, which claimed the lives of 18 Iranians. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard, which is in charge of the country's missile program, said it launched surface-to-surface missiles from western Iran into Syria's eastern region of Deir ez-Zor, in an attack which the country's Tasnim news agency reported killed a large number of terrorists and destroyed strategic equipment and weaponry.
این قررش موشک‌های نقطه‌زن سپاهیان اسلام است که بر سر فرماندهان تروریست‌های تکفیری در استان دیر الزور سوریه فرود می‌آید.
Even though the Iranian Revolutionary Guard claimed that all the missiles hit their intended targets, American intelligence satellites monitoring the region spotted 4 out of the 6 Iranian missiles failing to reach Syria and falling in the Iraqi desert. Military analysts told TV7 that if the satellite photos are indeed verified, this would be perceived as a failed missile launch for the Iranian regime, as part of its first operational use of its ballistic program in 30 years. Meanwhile, the chief of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, General Ramazan Sharif, declared that even though the Iranian missile attack struck a blow to the Islamic State in Syria, the ballistic strike was also intended as a message to the enemies of the Islamic Republic, including the United States and Saudi Arabia. The Iranian threat, which was also directed at Israel, was received in Jerusalem as hollow rhetoric. Israeli Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman asserted during a meeting of his Israel Beitenu faction that Israel is not worried and is prepared for every development. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu also referred to the Iranian threat during a meeting of his ruling Likud party, relaying his own warning to the Islamic Republic, stressing that Tehran should watch its own back if it plans to threaten Israel. Now, with regard to the ongoing conflict in Israel's northern neighbor, where the United States is working to restore a deconfliction mechanism of communications with Russia, meant to avoid an accidental clash over Syria, after Moscow decided to cut the communications line off in response to a U.S. downing of a Syrian military jet earlier this week.
An incident occurred. We have to work through the incident. We have a channel to be able to do that, and I think it's going to require some diplomatic and military engagement in the next few hours to restore the deconfliction that we've had in place. And again, the deconfliction that we've had in place is in our mutual interest because it allows us to address what at least pro-regime forces have indicated is our common enemy, ISIS.
The U.S. military shot down the Syrian fighter jet after it bombed local SDF forces backed by the U.S.-led coalition in the fight against Islamic State, an action that appeared to mark a new escalation of the conflict. While the U.S. has said since it began recruiting, training, and advising what it calls moderate Syrian opposition forces to fight the Islamic State, that it would protect them from potential Syrian government retribution, this was the first time it resorted to engaging in air-to-air combat to make good on that promise.
We made every effort to warn those individuals not to come any closer, and then the commander made a judgment that there was a threat to the forces that we were supporting and took action. The only actions that we have taken against pro-regime forces in Syria, and there have been two specific incidents, have been in self-defense, and we've communicated that clearly.
The American move, however, angered Moscow, as Washington did not inform the Russian military before downing the Syrian jet as part of its agreement on deconfliction. During a press conference, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov called on the United States and all other powers embroiled in the Syrian conflict to avoid unilateral actions that could potentially escalate the situation on the ground, while urging them to respect Syria's sovereignty.
Мы призываем Соединенные Штаты и всех других, кто имеет свои силы или своих советников на земле, обеспечивать скоординированность в нашей работе. Зоны деэскалации являются одним из возможных вариантов совместного продвижения вперед. Приглашаем всех избегать односторонних действий, уважать, еще раз подчеркну, суверенитет Сирии и подключиться к нашей общей работе, которая согласована с правительством Сирийской Арабской Республики.
The situation continues to deteriorate as Russia threatened to target aircrafts flown by the US-led coalition if they would enter the Syrian airspace west of the Euphrates River. The Russian threat to target American aircrafts west of the Euphrates poses complications, particularly because Raqqa, the de facto capital of the Islamic State, which sits on the river in northern Syria, is well within range of Syrian and Russian air defenses, including the advanced S-400 surface-to-air missile systems. Meanwhile, the US-backed Syrian Democratic Forces, SDF, continue their advance into the Islamic State-held region of Raqqa as the extreme Muslim group continues to lose ground. The SDF, made up predominantly of Kurdish fighters, have managed to encircle the city of Raqqa, where, according to intelligence reports, some 3,000 Islamic State militants are digging in an attempt to defend their city. Nevertheless, the SDF fighters, including men and women, voiced their eagerness to conquer the city from the Islamic State.
پشت دایش کش قوت بیتن حتی داویجی ان پاراسنا گلی خوا آخا خوا دی بکن نزاتشتی بیجمه.
The US-led coalition has in recent weeks escalated its aerial bombing campaign in both Raqqa city and the surrounding district to weaken the defenses of the extreme Muslim group ahead of a full-scale advance against Islamic State. Thank you for watching us. Praying for the peace of Israel and the peace of Jerusalem. I'm Jonathan Hassan of Erev Tov, and we will see you again tomorrow at the same time.
In order to donate to TV7 Israel News, please follow these simple steps. First, press the Donate logo located at the bottom left side of TV7 Israel News Facebook page, or on the Donate tab at the head of the page. Then insert the amount you'd like to donate, and fill in your credit card information. Just like this. And press Review Donation and continue. After reviewing your donation details, please press Donate to finalize your donation. That's it! Your donation is now complete, and an email with your donation details has been sent to your email address. You can also print your donation receipt by pressing the link here. Thank you for supporting TV7 Israel News.